Hey everybody, this is Glenn Biggs from Community Arts of Bellevue. This is Thursday night again, a little bit, sort of, kinda.
Yes.
And I would like to just welcome all of you to be with us this evening. Thanks for being on the show. You are in for a treat. We are going to take a peek at someone's home in the West Nashville area that we absolutely adore and love. This is my great friend Terry White. Terry, thank you for being with us this evening. And we're going to take you around to show you some magnificent architecture, some magnificent gardens, and some magnificent art event settings as well this evening. So sit back, pour yourself a cocktail, and enjoy the show. Terry, thank you so much for being with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you for coming again.
Here we are.
First time for y'all with sound, but we've sort of been through this before with a few technical difficulties. But I love showing off my home and garden, especially the garden. So let's get started.
Let's go for it. I'll follow you.
This is the front entrance, but we're going to go down and see our first pond.
Sure.
I have, I think, 9
beautiful
ponds.
Old boxwoods.
These 2 boxwoods were original here when I bought the property. Everything else is stuff I have done. These awesome. 2 crepe myrtles here were the first 2 things that I planted 25 years ago when I bought the house. And that boxwood back there, the largest one,
yes,
is one of the original Cheekwood Mansion boxwoods from the 20s. They did the proving ground, the southern proving ground for boxwoods as part of their gardening expanse for Cheekwood.
Well, they're known for their their boxwoods for sure.
This property was part of the original Cheekwood property.
Wow.
They had to sell it to raise money to start the museum. But I found this boxwood up against the Cheekwood property line, and it took me 2 weeks and dragging it behind my van to get it moved down here out from under a thing. It's done okay.
Oh, it looks very happy.
Boxwoods go very slowly, so it took it 10 years really to come back from its trauma. But you know.
Well, while we're at the front door and these gorgeous steps up to the front door, tell us about the house a little bit.
Well, the house was built in 1959 and 1960 by a Hungarian artist and his wife. Okay. They were refugees, actually, who came to America from Hungary and created a home and a life. Sándor Bodo was the artist, and he designed the house and built much of it himself. He dug footings. He would get some money, he would buy $500 worth of concrete and just sort of built the house.
Wow.
So it's a solid concrete stone structure, except for the roof. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it, but I do typically call it Frank Lloyd Wrong design. You know, he was a big fan, but Frank Lloyd Wright was not known for roofing houses that well, and that has sort of been a constant issue. The house itself is solid, but the roof has been a problem. But as of today, after 8 weeks, I have a new roof.
Okay, good.
That should last me, I hope, the rest of my life in this house.
Until the next ice storm happens. These beautiful crepe myrtles.
Yeah, I mean, they really do make me happy. I do not murder them. I do not cut them back. I did a couple of times in the first 5 years of growth to get the canopy to the level that I wanted it to be. Yeah. But now I do not murder them, and they bloom profusely, and they provide this wonderful, wonderful shade.
There's nothing like them
for the front entry. There really isn't.
Let's walk on back.
And this is some of my hellebore collection. I have lots of hellebores, another favorite of mine.
Are they easily
they're really, really quite easy.
Split up?
Well, you don't have to split them up. They had these little pods, And if you will pull the pods out probably about 3 or 4 weeks before, they have little seeds in them, and you can just literally scatter them on the ground.
Oh my goodness.
And you've just redid
it.
A whole new thing.
Well, I'm going to need some of those.
That's how I started, and they're evergreen in the winter. You just have to cut back last year's leaves in the spring because they get a little ugly.
Okay.
But other than that, they're very low maintenance. They love shade. Not much else will grow where they will grow, but they're really quite happy. And this is
beautiful water
my first water feature that I built from scratch, and it has a frog that lives here, and he's happy, and it's all pieces and parts. These the rim are antique cobblestones. If they had stories that they could tell of where they've been and the ballast of ships, but the rest of it were just sort of pieces and parts. I did make the cattails out of copper.
You made those yourself?
I did. But
you're so amazing.
The bowl came from Costco. It was part of it had a stand, and I just wanted the bowl. But it's, and then I took an inexpensive, cheap Goodwill find copper bowl.
Oh my goodness.
And drilled a few holes in it. And if I want to, I can have that kind of spout, but birds like it better for bathing if there's not so much splash and it just is fresh water running. So I have lots of...
See, if I had tried that, my bowl would be up in this Great Myrtle somewhere.
Well, actually, it was the first go-rounds or two until I got everything adjusted just right. Drilling the holes in exactly the right place to get the water to fall was actually the hardest part of it.
That's genius.
But you'll see, boxwoods, hellebores, and hydrangeas. These hydrangeas are in pretty deep shade, so they come out later, but they come out completely fully, like the rest of them. They just are always a couple of weeks behind.
Okay.
This dogwood, it's a hot pink dogwood. It was original to the house as well.
Oh, it was one of the dogwoods don't usually live that long, do they?
I don't know. There's a blight supposedly, and I worry about these brown tips on this one section here, but it's done that every year for about 5 years. And I do fertilize it lightly with compost, and it keeps growing. You can see, because I built this arbor to shade this side of the house, and you can see how much growth since I built it, maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Okay. All of the dogwood is gone, so it's still happy.
It does seem so.
Still happy.
I would think it is.
Yeah. And here's my little firewood collection. But this goes up to, and I'm sorry, I'm a little hobbling.
You're gimpy.
I broke a toe and ripped a toenail off.
Oh, good Lord.
Not building arbors, not hauling stones, but doing a wedding, hanging a wreath on a church front door.
When we all about kill ourselves.
Somebody came out.
Listen.
But we're going to my favorite spot, which is the moss garden.
Oh wow.
And it's moss and herbs.
Beautiful old steps. Now are these?
I built
structure, or did you put
I built these.
Wow.
I built this wall here, and I built these steps out of antique cobbles. And my skill level improves as I get older.
I was going to say, because I would not even know where to begin on this one.
Well, you can see there is a crack in there that I will have to deal with here sometime. But I poured these concrete steps down there after it started cracking to support it so that it wasn't pulling away. And it has stopped the crack. Okay. But snakes like to live down there. And not that great with snakes. This is my little rose and herb garden. This was an old, this is an old gravel driveway, this entire expanse up here. And all of the stone structure up here I did a year ago. And I built this specifically for roses, and I built this one specifically for edible herbs and tomatoes because I was able to bring in all organic dirt. The rest of the property, I'm not going to eat anything that comes out of the ground here.
So organic was not necessary.
I mean, we get all of the runoff of all the chemicals from cheekwood, and I'm sure they have to, on a botanical garden, use chemicals, and all of their water comes down through here.
I never thought about that.
So I just, I'd rather deal with an organic gardener, somebody who knows what they're doing. But you can see I have more fountains. I don't see my little frog friends out. Oh, there's one. Over there, I have a smaller frog in the small pond and a bigger frog in the big pond.
I see.
But Sunday, I built a little lily pad in the small pond because the little ones spent too much time treading water, and he looked like he couldn't get in and out of the pond. So I built this for him. Well, the big frog has decided to inhabit the lily pad. So they have to be friends.
Go.
But I have lots of rosemary. I love the smell of rosemary.
Yes.
You know, I like it on potatoes, but that's about it. But I really love having it along pathways, anywhere that I can just brush my hand through it.
Yeah, right.
And I'm a little bit like that also
rosemary.
with basil.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
And this is behind us here is what I call the basil bar, because this is where this gets the most sun, and so I have lots of basil. Again, aromatic.
Never have enough basil.
You can never have too much basil. You know, it's just so it's so nice to be able to.
Pretty.
Well, it's also pretty. It's also pretty, but again, I like to just rub my hands through it.
And the flavor and the pesto
and this helps. My compost bins are up here. We won't go up there, but I just finished these steps to make it a safer passage to get to the compost bin. But having all of the rosemary and the basil down here close to it helps with, sometimes it smells in the middle of the summer when it's really hot. You know, I don't mind it.
Let's call it compost.
Yes, right. I don't mind it.
So Terry, tell me a little about your wine glass. I've noticed that I just happened to look up and was like, there's something missing here.
Well,
I feel like with Terry White, this is intentional.
It is. It's my garden wine glass. I broke the pedestal off of it and then filed it so I didn't hurt myself.
Yeah.
But as I walk around the garden, I know me, and I'm always going to stop and weed or do something. And I can take the wine glass and just stick it in the ground.
Well, of course you can.
And as opposed to me breaking another wine glass, trying to find a level, hard spot for it to sit on. So it's what I do. I solve problems. I solve problems. But this leads up into the.
So wait a minute. There's the shed.
Oh, the shed. I call this the summer house.
The summer house.
The summer house.
The shed. That's not the shed at all.
It, you know, was for me to be able to. I've got connectors for a hammock if I want to spend the night up here on the perfect summer night. I've only done it once. It quickly became my garden shed and a place to store my tools. And
you need any place for that, right?
But I can clean it up pretty quickly. Behind those curtains are my woodworking tools, saws, etc. And all of this does go behind the curtains, so that I could serve wine there. But
I should have known.
But in the meantime, I built the
little
basil bar. Yeah.
I should have known the multifunction of.
And our intrepid photographer and producer is going to show you behind the curtain, much to my dismay, but
we don't have much control over this.
Right, in for a penny, in for a pound, And
so tell me what you have. Are these like?
These came from Target, from the Smith Hawkins collection. They're boot trays. They're boot trays to kick off your wet and muddy boots, but I made awnings out of them. I did drill holes so they drain properly.
I have one of these trays.
You'll see them in several places. It's called repurposing. I originally bought them for an event, for a wedding, and they've been stored, and I've just used them creatively throughout.
Wow, that is clever.
When we get down to the patio, I'll show you my most recent, concoction of copper trays.
Ooh, this hydrangea, I have not. That has bloomed since last time I've seen you.
It has. This is one of the few French hybrid varieties that I have, because in Nashville, they don't produce blooms regularly. Maybe once in 4 years, once in 5 years.
Really?
They only bloom on old wood, last year's wood.
Okay.
And if we have a late freeze or a late frost, it kills the stem that has the sap in it to produce a bloom. It doesn't kill the plant, it's just the tip, which produces the bloom, won't produce a bloom.
Kind of like the French, a little picky.
A little picky, So these were some that I bought for an event, and I cannot stand to ever get rid of any plant. But they've been glorious this year.
Beautiful.
But last year, not so much. Year before, not so much.
Absolutely glorious.
It's just kind of one of those things. And I do have very alkaline soil, so they are pink. I believe they might have started out blue, but to keep them blue, you've got to acidify the soil.
Pink. It's a great contrast.
Well, no, it is. They don't last as long as the ones that I have the most of, the Annabelles. They'll last really into October. They'll turn green again after they turn white, if they ever turn white.
Is this parsley?
This is curl-leaf parsley, but it hasn't really gotten curly yet. More basil.
Yes.
And I just finished, this fountain has been here as is, but I just drilled the hole through the ball. I've been wanting to do it for a long time and just never got around to it, and add a second pump so that water comes out of the top of it. So I'm pretty happy with it.
That.
I haven't disguised my hose yet, but it'll happen. There's always time for that.
I'm sure I'm going to come film again, and you'll figure out how to hide the hose.
And you'll notice that a lot of the pots up here have fire screens on them.
Okay.
That's to keep the birds from picking out my moss and throwing it all over the place. These are just fire pit tops. And some of the moss in the pots is, kind of special, rarer mosses and things like that, that I like. So I just, I love my birdies, but leave my moss alone.
I'm also seeing a little bit of a motif, like around your plantings with the stone and the rocks.
Well, it's one of those things.
These are not rocks. So
these are 1/8
volleyball.
These are 1/8 cobbles. It's called a 1/8 cobble, but the balls are a bocce ball set.
Bocce balls. That's what it's
yes. This years ago, I had a couple of friends that played bocce ball, and this was the bocce ball court. So this is homage to that. This is my bocce ball display.
You use them cleverly and beautifully. That's great.
And after the moss, maybe in another year, I don't see any reason why we could not play bocce ball on the moss.
You think?
I don't see any reason.
Would it endure that?
Yeah, it endures walking, and I tromp on it all day long, back and forth, back and forth.
Put your wine glass in, take it up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Hey,
you know.
I love the umbrellas up.
Well, I refer this as the umbrella farm.
There you go.
They seem to be very healthy, and there's lots of them, and
yes,
they seem to like it here.
They look totally happy.
But they're here basically for shade, for new moss. When I first started planting the moss up here a year ago, the sun, high noon, comes straight in here. It's the only place on the property that gets full sun, and it's only for a couple of hours. But this moss does like sun, will survive, but it thrives if it doesn't get baked.
Gotcha. Does this take a lot of watering?
Not a lot.
Really?
10 minutes to water, 8,000 square feet of moss. You don't have to water it like a plant. You just have to mist it.
Just keep it wet.
Just mist it.
Let it know it's got some water.
Yeah. Just give it a little bit of water. But it's just, another pot with more special moss. I don't mind the covers, and I take them off when I'm up here for the most part, but when I'm not here, as soon as I turn my back, the robins come.
The robins all show back up.
Yeah, and robins are the ones that do really the most damage.
Your hydrangeas are absolutely glorious. How many have you got, do you think?
I think I have about 600.
Oh my goodness.
And most of the 600 are Annabelles, Limelights, and the oak leaves have been pretty fabulous this year.
They have been gorgeous this year, haven't they?
Yeah.
So point out what's what.
Okay, this stand right here, those are Annabelles.
These are Annabelles, okay.
Those back there, further away, the sort of panicle-shaped bloom, those are oak leaves.
Right.
And the Limelights don't bloom till July.
Oh, okay.
So they're just sort of, I don't like mixing them together, so there's a whole row behind this row of boxwoods, and down there where we came up the cobblestone steps, I've got a bunch of Limelights down there. And I've got different varieties. People have gotten creative with hybridizing Limelights because people seem to like them.
Okay.
So I've got several varieties. The Annabelle's pretty much, an Annabelle is an Annabelle. It's an arborescence,
which means?
As opposed to a French hybrid, which means it only blooms on new wood. So I cut these all back.
Un-French, not quite so picky.
Right. Yeah. And I cut them all back in the winter. And usually I make large arrangements in my empty pots from my annuals and things, and they root.
They do root.
They do root.
Okay.
And that's
Is that how you propagate a lot of yours?
That's how I keep getting more and more and more.
That's great. I was going to ask, do you divide these, or how do you?
This is a Limelight.
Okay.
And Limelight will propagate in the same way, same form or fashion. Many of my Limelights, again, are propagated, where I just take the bloom, stick it in potting soil, and leave it outside, and February it has roots.
Nice.
A lot of people use rooting hormone, but I have not, but I have found that there's not much difference between using it or not. It wants to root. Stick them in about 2.5 inches. I tried to put underground the first full nodule and then the cut edge.
Okay.
And usually the roots come out of the nodule.
Under just water?
No, in the ground.
Just in the ground.
Potting soil. I throw away my annuals, and then I make an arrangement with like 150. I have a video. I have a video about it on my YouTube channel. about propagating hydrangeas.
So tell us about your YouTube channel.
Well,
I mean, I want to promote that as well.
Well, it's something that Emily and I started a year ago. Actually, we're having our 1-year anniversary very soon, within a week or maybe today. It was just sort of a way for me to share some of my experiences. I'm not a professional. There are tutorials, but I'm careful about tutorials because I really don't know what I'm doing. I just do it.
That's really not true, but okay, I'm going to play that character.
My biggest thing is I have no fear. I'm willing to try anything. And
I love that.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
That encourages our viewers.
And it will become something else. Okay, I mean, you sort of seen the moss garden and the hydrangeas up here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I didn't really call attention down at the end. Look this way. Down at the end of the moss garden is a sundial.
It's beautiful.
By an artist that I met who repurposes. It's all made out of old junk and things and scrap and stuff, you know.
Wow.
So I was immediately taken with that.
Sure.
And I felt like it was a perfect accent for the moss garden.
Well, I mean, just the visual is amazing.
Let's go down to the outdoor room and a few more ponds.
So while we're walking, like Terry, I know you also have a video series out.
I do.
I'd like to hear more about, and I think our viewers would too.
Terry White, Design Your Life. It's just me making a fool out of myself trying to teach people.
There's no such thing.
I'm not great at tutorials because I don't really know what I'm doing. I figure it out along the way.
Okay.
And so it is difficult for me to tell somebody to do it the wrong way like I did it. So, but still, hopefully you'll learn. And my real crux of starting the show was not to necessarily show people how to do things, but to inspire them.
And it does that. I've watched a number of them. They're great.
Create your life for you, you know, and don't waste time. You know, I always wanted to live in a spa, so I'm trying to create a spa.
Well, you've done a good job of that. I think you have.
But come on, let's go down to this is.
So that is on YouTube, and it's Terry White by Design.
Design Your Life.
Design Your Life. Design Your Life on YouTube. Go check it out, folks.
But you see, this is my time garden. Nobody has too much time.
Nope.
You can never have enough time.
Never.
But this is German time.
I was going to say, my time doesn't bloom.
It happens to be particularly beautiful and has been for about a month. And English time is a very similar growth habit, low, but it has a lavender flower. Or maybe some people call it pink, but I call it lavender. It has a little purple tint to it.
And I'm noticing ginkgos around a lot too.
Yeah, I have ginkgo trees. You know, my whole thing, a ginkgo has not changed since prehistoric times. It's one of the few plants that has not evolved or mutated, or it's still solid as rock. Moss is also one of the few things that has not changed or mutated, and for some reason that in stone that is forever. Those are just things of my life that have become attractive to me. I think maybe I'm trying to live forever.
Well, I
realize it's not going to work, you know.
It would certainly go on.
But I would like for things that I've done, you know, with the boxwoods and the ginkgos and the moss and the stonework, I would like to think that it will last long after I'm gone, you know, and find the right person who will take care of it. And
it certainly be a shame for it not to live for a long, long, long time.
This area here is a different kind of boxwood. It's wintergreen. It's part of the sort of Korean boxwood family, but I do love them just as well.
What's such a thing?
They do pretty well in shade, and they are underneath this magnolia tree that I do love. But oh my God, they're such a mess. They're such a mess.
The magnolias, they can be.
Yeah, and I just cleaned up, a few days ago. These are some more propagated limelights here.
Okay.
And
so I feel like there's a story behind these candelabras that are hanging from the cedar.
those are, again, repurposed. Those were some candelabras that I had in my business. I do weddings and events. I design them for a living. And wrought iron sort of went out of fashion, and I had all of these candelabras, so I sawed the bottom of the candelabra off and just kept the top and made these balls out of 2 hanging baskets that I got at some 10-cent store or whatever. But I've got candles that I put in them if I'm entertaining or having an event. But in the meantime, they hold just enough water for birds to have a wonderful little water supply, but not so deep that mosquitoes will ever breed in them. They dry up after a few days. So to me, there's sort of the perfect watering tool for my little bird friends. And then Owl. This is Owl. I did not make him. I'd made all of the sculpture around, and these are my version of copper flowers. But the owl itself came from Creekside Garden Center. Creekside Garden Center, and more are absolutely the 2 best.
They are.
And I can't pick one over the other.
So, making these flowers, these copper flowers, did you do that where? Where did you make those? Out here in the yard?
Out here in the yard.
Together.
Yeah, they're set in concrete. So I first dug a hole and poured the concrete in and put a rebar stem in the center. And then I just started wrapping, and they're lightly screwed together. I'm not a welder, but I can really operate a power drill.
Like nobody's business.
There's nothing I can't figure out.
They're beautiful.
But
they're graceful. They're so good looking.
Yeah, and they get so much better with age. Copper, and people ask me why I like copper so much, and it's like, well, copper when it's new, and maybe I'll show you some brand new copper down there, was when I was 18 years old. Now I'm in my brown stage.
Right.
And
there's a good way of
these have started a little frosting of the verdigris color, which is an older age.
Well, we're not going to talk about that.
Well, we won't. Please don't ask. It's not a good topic.
It's good for other things, not for us.
More hydrangeas.
Absolutely.
And I've got peonies in here. They just finished blooming, so there's no view there, no story there. But I did this walkway, and I've, been working really hard on getting the moss to grow in between the stones, but I did this walkway just 2 years ago. But I've tried to make it look like it has been here for 30 years. But I made it for my goddaughter's wedding. She got married up in the moss garden.
Oh.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes. And this is my turtle station. Just a little bit of water. They can access it from the top. And I put all of my strawberries and blueberries and fruit out here. And the turtles are happy. I have lots of box turtles. I love frogs, love owls, love birds, love turtles.
Yeah.
This is sort of a new, I just did this year, earlier in the year, but I made the center stone, and another one of my tutorials on YouTube is me making this stone with the ginkgo leaf in it. And the rest of it is just a kit of papers, you know, but I did want it to have something, you know, unique and handmade in it.
Go watch it.
But they're so easy. This took maybe 40 minutes to make, you know. Very, very, very easy. But this is sort of...
Yeah, the what?
Your sock foot that I gotta...
You just gotta talk about your sock foot.
Oh, okay. Well, going downstairs is the most difficult. They'll see me limping, probably. I broke my toe and ripped my toenail off doing a wedding. Weddings are not as easy as one would think to do, you know. But this is a sundial that I made. I made the concrete base. I used a rubber leaf imprint to get my large maple leaf imprint. But these are all my watches. I don't wear a watch, but people give you watches. You know, I had a drawer or a lifetime full of watches, so I mounted them in this and made a sundial on it.
Hey, there you go.
And set each one of the watches and clocks to the time corresponding to its place on the dial.
Clever.
Now, just to circle back, the base that I did not like from the copper from the first pond that we saw.
Okay, right.
It is what's holding this up, but I have artistically decorated it with copper. But
imagine that.
It's in there. It's in there because it was sturdy. It's just it was ugly.
It just needs to be.
Yeah.
Repurposed.
Yeah, not everything has to be used. And I'm going to hold the fence as I go down. We had to stop for a pit stop, and
I ran out.
So we're at my newly created outdoor living space bar.
It's absolutely
which is completely because Glenn ran out of wine and I'm getting pretty low. So there's for you.
Yep.
And another glass when I'm on dry land and not in the garden works great to hold my garden glass up. And I'm going to just put a little bit in there. But
and cheers to you. Thank you.
So cheers.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes. Every house should have an outdoor bar, just so you don't have to walk in the house every time you want a cocktail. So I have wine coolers that I've installed back here. I have liquor. Yeah, it's a lot of extra work, dusting and cleaning, but I treat this entire space that we're getting ready to walk through as another room of the house. And it is, to me, the most important room because I spend probably 3/4 of my day out here, at least. If I'm not in the garden, you can almost guarantee that I'm down here doing something.
Sure.
But let's look at a few of my ponds.
Okay. I'd love to. I can just hear the water. That makes me happy.
Yeah, water pretty much makes me happy as well.
Yeah.
Now, our producer is going to hate me for this, and I won't leave it on long.
Okay, well, we can talk over it.
But, you know, there's 3 ponds down here. Okay. Each one sort of has a theme. The fountain is a particular bird that lives in the yard. It's their nest. And like on the top of this fountain, on top of the rock, that's a messy wren nest. And they use everything. And then this is a cardinal nest here. And the one that we can't really quite see probably is a robin nest. But I'm going to turn on another water feature, and I'll turn it back off because it is kind of noisy. But the whole point of the ponds was to drown out the noise from the highway. I couldn't stand rush hour traffic, and so I kept adding fountains and ponds until there was no sound. But this is really my crowning glory of engineering.
Oh my goodness.
I have a fountain that comes out of the sky instead of up from the water.
Oh, wow.
And the sound from it will drown out a freight train.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And the dogs next door.
Yeah. But you can see I have lots of moss. Each pond has its own froggies. There we go. Does that make our camera person happy? Probably so. But this is another view of this pond. And the copper, that's what all of these birds' nests and all of the copper work that I've done, that's what it looks like when it's brand new, before it has been exposed to water or air.
Right.
So I've got those 3 coils laying there to age them, because I'm building a bird's nest in the dry area, and so it won't age in my lifetime. So I'm trying to age it before I build the bird's nest. But around here, you can...
I want to stop for a moment. There's a painting out here on their patio.
There is.
That's caught my eye. I'm like, not every patio has a painting out there on it.
You know, I painted it, but I painted it with house paint. Exterior house paint.
Okay.
And I did it for an event.
I feel like de Kooning would be very happy with you.
Absolutely. And so why shouldn't it be outside? It's on canvas, and it's exterior paint.
It's not going to go anywhere, right?
Right. Nowhere. And the frame is from an event also, but not the same event. It's made out of styrofoam. So it's also will last forever. I had to beat it up to make it look like it was old. I don't like new things.
Is it like crown molding?
No, I had it made by a styrofoam artist.
Of course what you do.
But back here, you get a little closer to look at my privacy wall, and this was to hide the house. It absolutely was to hide the house, but most everything on it are recycled materials, lots of corks. I use corks as mulch also. They make great mulch. But these are wine bottles. And back here is my outdoor shower.
This is absolutely divine.
And I really...
Come take a shower.
Well, last year, I probably went 2.5 months before I used the inside. I've got all my toiletries in a tackle box that don't like being exposed. And I use only biodegradable organic soaps and shampoo.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where, kind of where they go. But it's just one of those guilty pleasures about me wanting to stand in the moss and shower.
That is just beautiful and amazing.
But that's kind of it. I mean, this wall thing is sort of...
I love this installation.
It's an amalgamation of all sorts of...
every way.
Lots of corks, this is a walnut tree.
Design and the rhythm.
Yeah. And the empty spots, I designed it so that some of the sections will blow out in high wind so that the whole wall doesn't come down. And during the tornado last year, the high winds, I lost these sections, which they were supposed to. It was no big deal. I just haven't replaced them yet. I like change.
What were in those? Wood?
Walnut was in the one to the far left, and bottles were in here.
Okay.
And they're okay during the summer because this wonderful tree back here,
right.
Keeps me from looking at the house on the other side. So, I'll get around to it. I'll get around
or
to
not,
it.
and that's okay, right?
Yeah. I'll have a vision.
Okay.
Well, let's go back and maybe just sit down and relax. And that's what this space is for, is to really, really just chill out and relax and feel like you're in another world, another space. My seating area, yes, I keep fresh flowers and vases out here because I want it to feel like it's part of the house.
And it does.
And that's the easiest way to do it. But I thoroughly have enjoyed and would love for you to come back sometime and maybe go through the house.
Oh, yes, we need to do that. Terry has the most incredible art collection, just outstanding. And we need to talk about it. You need to hear more about what's going on.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a whole different part of me is, if you get me wound up and started talking about every painting in my house means something to me.
And I know that.
Either the artist or the painting itself. And a few of them I've done as well. I don't paint much anymore. I paint with rock, concrete, and copper. And moss.
Yes.
We can't forget moss.
You can't forget moss. It's all lovely.
Really enjoyed having Glenn here and hope that you have enjoyed it as well. And please tune in to my YouTube channel if you want to know a little more about this wacky kid, and who is a little OCD but uses it always to good advantage and results.
Absolutely. And on behalf of Community Arts of Bellevue, we want to thank you for being with us tonight again. And always tune in Thursday nights at 7 p.m. for Live from the View. We have some great programming coming up. I think you'll enjoy everything we are going to be bringing to you in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. You can also go to our website for more information, which is CAOFB. CommunityArtsofBellevue.org. And let me know if you need anything or need some information. Thank you for joining us. Terry, thank you so much, man, for your hosting of this beautiful property and gardens and home and patio. And it's an amazing place. I wish you could all be here with me.
It's been my pleasure.
Yep. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good night.